Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubble.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
I think it needs. I need them to say my name at least one more time in the opening of the show. I mean, we could arrange that. You know what I mean? Just repeat it. You know? Yeah, exactly. Think of it. It's sort of the audio equivalent of Dan Bongino's background on his show. If you've ever seen it, it looks like it looks like if chicken pox, if logos were distributed with chicken pox, that's what it would be. If you look at Dan Bongino's show, it's he's right up there with Mancow and his sort of Ayatollah Saddam Hussein design style. You know what I mean? Just plaster everything. And maybe eventually people will think you're worth paying attention to. And why Johnny changed his background on Skype to a Christmas sweater? Who can say?
I didn't even
but
know
it works
it was
for
a
me.
thing.
Oh yeah, of course it is. There you go. Now you have a tech startup firm. There's all sorts of fun happening, as always, at infotainmentwars.com, and of course at fwank.com, which is how you get to the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/HalSparks, where you can become a member and support the show using your Amazon Prime account, because it's free for you if you do that, and it doesn't cost you a dime, but it helps the show, and it's cool if you do that. It's a helpful thing. Yeah. And then, of course, it's been a crazy week, needless to say. Very, very disappointing week for Republicans overall, because I don't know if you've heard this, Johnny, but the job numbers came out and they were really good.
Yeah, and the unemployment went down.
Yeah, it's got to be rough for them right now, because even though they're rooting against all the American teams in the Olympics because 3 or 4 of the players aren't sufficiently nationalistic for them, they kind of root against all of them. It's funny how a couple of the soccer players make them angry, and the occasional, I don't know who the other ones were that they have a grudge against, but that's enough for them to write off everybody in track and field, like boo javelin. You know what I mean? It's the weirdest thing. Like if everybody's not on the team, nobody's on the team. It's sort of like the United States of Koresh with these folks. And it definitely applies to the job numbers right now. This is by all measure, excellent job report from July. Non-farm payrolls, which is always a fun part of this, is the non-farm part.
They separate out the farm payrolls because aren't those perpetually subsidized?
Yes, and also they rotate a lot of migrant workers that are non-citizens, and so a lot of those folks come across the border, work for a little while, and then go home, and they don't want to count those folks as part of because obviously they're not going to vote in a district and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of it's seasonal workers. It's effectively it's
totally legal, by the way. I work in payroll, and a lot of my clients they come in and they pay income tax, but they don't pay into Social Security and Medicare.
Right. Yes, and it makes sense because they're contributing either in their own countries or they have some equivalent there, or they're making significantly more coming across the border and working than they would at home, and it translates. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. But the point is that you got a bunch of these folks, who the right wing makes a living off of vilifying and demonizing, and saying that their very existence means open borders. Because let's be abundantly clear, while we're on this subject, that Hillary Clinton and other Democrats and other Republicans and people, just anybody on these border states with a lot of ag business around them, have always recognized the need for migrant workers to come over and work on farms and then go home. And so they needed some sort of system in place that separates them from people who are crossing the border without, the legal right to do so, and, be it card check or something else. There's this like E-Verify, where where you can do that on a regular basis, and you can do it every day. So you don't have to come over, stay for 3 months, and then pack up and go home. And it's this weird kind of vacillation. They know, and you know, that you don't live here and you work here because it's right there. It's, a mile and a half from where you live in your country. You go to another country and work, and then you come home again. And
I can see Russia from my house.
That's right. It's the equivalent. It's like Sarah Palin, working summers in Russia when she was in high school. You know what I mean? She used to canoe over
She's a
there.
candy striper out there.
Absolutely, yeah. Until I guess the Navalny's of the world stopped dropping off, or started dropping off.
We call them non-Navalny's.
Yeah, we do. It's harder to say in Russian, but the idea of we need a system in place that would be part of, say, comprehensive immigration reform, which is a bill that's been sitting for a long time, that's got bipartisan support, that would actually solve a lot of these issues. But if you solve that issue, you can't demonize those workers as if they are illegally here. That's the problem. That's always been the Gordian knot of Republicans dealing with immigration, comprehensive immigration reform, is that if we start allowing for a system where people can come over, work, and go home, and there's a system in place where it's, well refined, technologically advanced, and functional, and these folks come over and they work and they go home and they don't cause trouble and they're lovely people, and then it's really hard to go, eek, the Mexicans are coming every 4 years or every 2 years.
It's the same with demonizing social programs that you
right.
Just go against during every election cycle, and then when they work, because you lost,
people are
and
held.
you take
yes,
credit
right.
for it.
Right. Well, I mean, that is where we are currently with the infrastructure bill. There's a bipartisan infrastructure bill that...
as soon as those bridges start getting repaired, who's going to say, you're welcome?
That's right. Yeah, that's the old, it's the Republicans' desire to play Santa Claus all the time, but never follow through with any of it, which is kind of the only Santa Claus part that they follow through with is largely tax cuts for a specific group of, a specific portion of society. But when it comes to stuff that actually benefits the country as a whole, they'll talk a big game but never move on it. I mean, even Trump's wall, which is one of his biggest promises made, promises kept, was not paid for by Mexico, and was such a flawed and functionless concept that apparently the second he leaves office, walls stop working. Apparently, this huge influx, we were almost done. A month. Yes, I knew it. If all we needed was a month, and the wall would have been working, and then we just forgot to paint it. We forgot to paint the wall. That's what he's complaining about. But if they'd have painted it black, that would have solved our immigration flux right now. That's the story.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. You must paint it black. The job numbers: 943,000 jobs added, non-farm payroll jobs. Overall unemployment drops by 0.3%, 5.4% right now, which is kind of, I mean, think back to unemployment numbers in the past. That one sounds pretty sweet compared to a lot of the time I've been alive, even still. And the drop from 5.7 to 5.4 is almost entirely in the Black and Latino community, as they dropped an entire point. In Black unemployment dropped an entire point in the last month, which is extraordinary in 30 days. And again, goes to that whole idea that if you let these programs get in place, they work. If you present people right, yeah. Well, I mean, they don't work if you're a campaigning Republican. Touche,
right.
Johnny Million. Yes. Yes, if they really don't, the social programs don't work if you are a Republican trying to stay in office running against social programs, because they do act as a springboard. They don't act as an anchor. They are not, the new slavery, the new, make like government your God, government your master, government your dad, whatever, that whole argument that's been around in Republican circles for a very long time doesn't work out that way. It really doesn't. Overall, people who are helped by these programs in mass end up benefiting from them. And I mean, Paul Ryan going to college on the SSI that he got when his father passed away, and then getting in office and trying to pull the ladder up after him once he was in the lifeboat, is a great example of that.
The nanny state, because he got his.
That's right.
FU.
That's right. That's right. His nanny was great to him or whatever, but that's the rarity. Most of the time. For him, you know what I mean? He's got the strength and the moral fortitude and the intellect to be able to deal with that, so he doesn't rely on his nanny forever. Even though he went on to take that money, get an education, get a government job, and then stay in long enough to get a permanent pension from that government job. But enough about that. So we got to take a break. When we come back, a lot has been jostling this week, not the least of which is our dear friend Mike Lindell's. Next week is the Cyber Symposium that we are, Wednesday I'm going to be covering as much of it as I possibly can. And that's saying a lot. It's as much as I can stomach anyways. But 72 hours straight apparently of this nonsense, which will result in nothing, just like the Arizona audit, and will just lead to a bunch of angry fools. And I would like to say, when we come back, why I think it's very important to ridicule and dismiss. I'll tell you my political theory on the return. Johnny and I were ruminating, as it were, about the fact that there are a lot of people in the news right now, especially because of the spike in the Delta variant throughout the red states, multiple stories of these regret moments. These, and I was making an analogy to these stories about Instagram models or TikTok stars that fall off of cliffs taking selfies and die and are found a day later when they haven't posted. And that moment that they have when you lean a little too far back on a ravine trying to take a selfie of yourself in a bald eagle or whatever, and you go, oops, and you realize you're gonna die in that moment. And that a lot of these folks who are anti-vaxxers or, this weird mix, and we were talking about this, Johnny, this odd mix of it's fake, it was a hoax, it's no big deal, it's just like the flu, most people don't have a problem, kids are immune, yada yada, mixed with the Chinese created it in a lab to attack us, and Trump let it in, but so we could kill it, I guess. And then, but also it's just mind control by the U.S. government to force us all to wear masks to get us used to wearing a leash, I guess, is the idea, so that we're more easily controlled in the future. Which, by the way, is working out great. Yeah. I mean, if there was some part of MK Ultra where somebody filed a report and said, all you got to do is this, we need a little something a little worse than the flu, just tell them, and then half the public will jump one direction and the other half will jump the other way and lose their mind. And that eventually everybody will come around, and then they'll all get into the chute like rodeo bulls, and you can do whatever you want. That person should be fired from MK Ultra. I just don't think they did.
Polio schmolio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who smallpox. so this overall, you've got a lot of these folks who are, we're seeing a bunch of these stories. Now, those are the stories that make it to the surface. These are the people, by the way, who have family members who were saying, "I told you so," to their relative who was that uncle that we all joked about at Thanksgiving, the Trump uncle that everybody had. Those are the people that are dying.
They're dying.
Those are the very people that are getting sick and dying. And their family members who rolled their eyes but let it go and said, "We love you anyways because you're a relative, but you're kind of a jerk." Those are the ones who are being interviewed right now, going, "Yeah, no, we're all vaccinated and we're encouraging everybody else to get vaccinated, and we didn't want him to die, but there was no talking him out of it."
In one case, this one guy's wife was not allowed to get vaccinated until he died, and then she was like, "You know what? I'm going to go ahead and get that vaccine now."
Not allowed by him?
Yeah, he forbade her.
Wow.
Because
yeah, because that's how family structures work, of course.
Right.
Well, I mean, maybe they were planning on having children, and he didn't want them to be magnetic. You know what I mean? Because nothing's more annoying than where are my keys? And they're stuck to Junior's head. You know what I mean? And you can't lean closer to the dashboard. I can't start the car with your forehead all the way over there.
I sincerely want to be magnetic. I don't care who knows it. I drop so many little screws.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
If I could hold a screw with the tip of my finger just to put the little, the nut cover back on top of
so you don't have to pinch it. You it would just stick to the end. You're right. Yeah. Local, just even if it just stuck to my shoulder, at least I could just lean my shoulder up against whatever I was trying to screw into the wall. I mean, we need to flash a satire warning. Satire warning. Satire.
Pictures.
Yes, it would make getting Canadian change out of a storm drain so much easier.
It's so weird that stuff is.
But it would also ruin a lot of close-up magic for people. That coin didn't disappear. It stuck to your forehead, right? So.
And then also nobody would believe in the Force anymore because that's all magnets.
Yeah, exactly. So, as we look at the change that is coming, and by the way, we are now at the point. It took a month longer than the Biden administration wanted. But 70% of Americans who can get the vaccine have gotten at least the first dose, which means in about another week and a half, the rest of them will have gotten their second dose. So we will have achieved a broad range of herd immunity, at least against hospitalization and death, through vaccination in this country by the end of August, which is also when the Biden administration will have us completely out of Afghanistan, if we're not already, by the way. It may just be a formality that we're looking at the end of August. Also, jobs numbers looking great. Housing market is solid. Inflation, though it is not, quote-unquote, keeping pace with wages, wages are on the rise, and the inflation that we're seeing is temporary. It is based largely, as most, if not all, economists will tell you, is based largely on supply chain issues caused by COVID. As was the lumber issue, as was anything there's a shortage of, and there is a lagging one that is caused by the amount of material production done in China that is in the process of being moved out of China. Because not only is COVID one of the reasons why a lot of companies are moving out of China to places like Taiwan and Thailand and Vietnam and Cambodia and other places like that, and so that they don't have to move their entire factory across the entire globe. Although many are, they're going to the Czech Republic, or they're going to Slovakia, like that kind of region. Tucker Carlson's favorite place, Hungary. A lot of people are moving there. Poland. They're moving there for the low wage workers. It's not as low as they were getting in China, but the upside of not costing the entire global economy trillions of dollars and millions of lives has made a lot of these companies feel like they should move out and go to these other countries. And in that transition, as they move out of China, there's going to be a delay in production on stuff that, cheap goods that people were counting on getting for a very long time. This will affect the Walmarts of the world. This will affect the Targets of the world. And this is a regular, like it is a natural response to the COVID crisis. It was such an extraordinary moment, and it largely occurred because the Chinese government could not be trusted to tell the truth about this threat as it emerged. And going forward, if you're a business person, that's something that's going to concern you because it's not localized to just, whether someone in a lab in Wuhan is selling the livestock that they use to test things on, for a little extra side cash in a wet market nearby, right? Or whatever the precise jumping reason, or even bringing that kind of livestock, animals, wild animals from a northern, highly forested, I don't even know what it's not quite an Amazon-like forest area, but it's more dense forestry in that area, bringing it down to a wet market where people will buy it in another portion of the country where they aren't
keep getting
illegally.
hung up on the term wet market. It's so rough.
Quit it.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. But while that business transition is happening, that's going to have an effect on the economy. It's just naturally going to occur that way. And a lot of the cheap stuff, which, by the way, the people who buy the cheap stuff and sell it for a living are going to have less money to spend. And so they're going to have to raise the price of other stuff that you'd get locally or you get from somewhere that isn't there to compensate for that lack of money. Arboreal. Thank you, Driftglass. I don't know why, but loving the movie Flash Gordon as much as I want, as much as I do, I don't know why I was hunting for that word. But you have a situation where, and we got to take another break, and I never even got to my why it's important to mock and deride people. We'll do that right after this one, I promise.
We will get back to mocking.
But this is going to affect the supply chain issues are going to affect things going forward for the next 8 months to a year. Not to the extent that it is currently. It's going to start to taper, especially as we get towards Christmas. And the Biden administration knows this, and which is why they are sort of emotionally coasting. While they are dealing with a lot of these issues for real, they are not panicking. So we'll be back right after this. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.